Get found, be seen, attach and take the stage. Unlock your potential, let the world engage. Get found, be seen, we're breaking through the noise with every rhythm.
Hey, hey, hey.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Ready to start the week strong.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Oh, hey, Monty. You seem like you have a hole right here.
Oh,
Is it there? Is it still there?
I'm kind of hungry. Oh man. Oh,
Lunchtime.
yeah. The green screen thing's kind of cool, huh? You can see right through me. Woo!
Cool. Nice. A little different, something different for the audience today. Welcome to another edition of Get Found
And be seen.
and Be Seen. We are co-hosts Carl Allen and Monty Armstrong, and we are excited to be here on a Monday morning. Hopefully this could give you some fuel for your week.
Yep. And Monday mornings, tech. We were having some text, and now what's interesting is that you are now cleared up. And I'm feeling like I'm looking fuzzy. Do I look fuzzy compared to how I was before the show?
No, you don't look fuzzy to me.
Okay, good.
I was just concerned about the hungry hole.
the hungry hole. It's there. I'm gonna do the turn it off and on again. The famous tech thing. We're gonna turn off the camera, but I'm still here. Hang on. Turn it back on again. And
working the tech out.
No, it's still
there.
Not as clear as I think it
and I'm
should
checking
be.
just in case. I'm checking YouTube.
There's tech.
That's the cool thing about it.
Tech
working the tech out. We're just checking, doing the. This is cool. We get to do it live, so our audience get to see what we do when it comes to just checking.
Yeah, what everyone does, but just some people don't show it. We're real. Here it is. Here's us. Here's the show.
Here it is. I guess we could say it's kind of behind the scenes a little bit too. Then I guess Monty, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of people would have not started yet because they were like, "Hey, things aren't all set up straight. Things aren't going perfect."
They're not perfect?
They're not imperfect action. I'll tell you. Oh man, I gotta say this. I gotta start out. I gotta get done with this show and jump on my coaching call because I joined in with Rachel Peterson. Thank you, Carl.
Nice.
7 days ago, I didn't even know who she was, and so now
you do.
Yeah, and so the first thing, the connection here is imperfect action. One of the first things that I in her program is she gives this thing of it's 100 days of imperfect action.
Love
so
it.
I'm like, Carl and me have talked about imperfect action before. That's awesome. Take imperfect action with intent to build momentum. I love that. It's one of my 2 sticky notes on my screen. And then the other thing that she's really big on during the little challenge that you first introduced me to on that is, why is your person crying? Which that's empathy. To know why your person's crying.
Yeah.
So there's that connection of where I came up with the empathy topic and why it is relevant and why I'm super fired up and passionate about it.
I love it. Oh, don't get me with my James Brown gun. My grunt.
Nope.
Hey. Hey. It's important. It's funny too, Monty, because in my opinion, it's all relatable. The avatar, empathy, understanding your ideal client, understanding your audience. When you're speaking on camera or on stage, understanding your audience, who you're speaking to, being able to read the room. All of that's important. And it's all connected.
Yep.
All connected.
Although I think that oftentimes that people empathize from their point of view.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. It's just not as powerful.
Right.
It's I'm just seeing it from my perspective. So if they're 2 different people, there's been a car accident, nobody's hurt. They're thinking about now the situation that my car has now been in an accident. One person is thinking, hey, how am I going to get to work? How am I going to replace this car? And the other person is, I work at home. I don't care about that. I need to figure out how my insurance lapsed accidentally, and now I have to figure out how to deal with this, with the damage, because it was my fault, or whatever. And so therefore the person, if the person that would be worried about their car isn't involved in the wreck, they're looking at the other person, they're empathizing with the person who was in the wreck, and that person's worried about the cost of the insurance issues, and this person's empathizing, oh, that's terrible, they don't know how to get to work, they're trying to figure out how to replace their car, they must be feeling terrible.
Right.
Way off track. You're empathizing, but you're empathizing from your perspective.
That's deep. That travels into a lot of different things in life and business. I think about it's interesting, the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Seek first to understand, then be understood. It's interesting because seeking to understand where that person's at, and then taking steps from that person's point of view, that's going the extra mile. And it's not easy to do. You have to suspend your judgment.
Right. You have to do what an actor does.
Say it, Monty.
You really
I love
have to leave your perspective behind. Mm-hmm. And fully envelop, or fully embrace this other perspective.
Right.
Which could be really foreign to your own.
Right.
Especially if like in my case, oftentimes I have such a logical approach to things that other people's emotional response or approach to something is so alien to me that I really need to work at, okay, release that, come in from over here and see that emotional thing, and then I can grasp more of their drives and desires and what reasons they have for doing what they've done or want to do.
Right. Oh, Monty, man, that is whoo. Of course you said it right there. You it was a trigger for me, Monty, when you said, you put in the acting part. That right there, that got me. You had me at that part. But I think about, doing acting, even when I've done acting and even done auditions, even before I got in a role. Even when you do an audition, you have to go and you have to do a lot, as much studying as you can. Try to understand the person, where they come from. Even if it's a commercial or theatrical film or whatever, you have to, look at the script or look at what's given to you. You have to study out where the person's coming from. You have to understand their story as much as possible. Because if you don't, you're not going to get the job, And so just going on that journey, you are internalizing so much. And you're not saying a lot. You're just taking the information in, and you're marinating in it as much as possible. Which takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of curiosity. It takes a lot of just a lot of time and marinating in it, so that you understand, so that you can project the emotion as much as, let me take it back. You can amplify the emotion as much as possible.
Yeah, so, I like to add in there, it takes time to marinate. It also takes bandwidth. And that's where I think you have to let go of your own perspective.
Right.
And that way you free up enough bandwidth to accommodate this foreign perspective. So you can truly embrace it and amplify it, as you said.
Right. And there's, from my experiences, there's a certain zone that you have to get into with it. That all that's so important. And to be honest, it's deep because it's a lot to manage. It may seem simple, but it is a lot to manage because you have to get into a particular zone with it so that you can execute it the best way possible. And so it's so relatable to this topic when it comes to having, empathy as a superpower for speaking. I think about, understanding your avatar and where they're coming from. I think about when I'm doing any type of engagement, and I use this to this very day with singing, dancing, acting, but also speaking. Like if I go to an event, I want to find out what they want to hear. Like I want to understand my avatar, but it's also I gotta physically get there if it's a live event, for example, and I have to look at the seats. I have to walk through each aisle. And it's funny, I was thinking about this weekend, Monty. It was in the area of singing, but it relates to speaking. I like to get in the zone, and just like athletes when they're doing their rituals, for me, I like to do rituals. So I'll walk through the aisles, and every step I take would represent a specific person, how they would feel, how they might particularly respond, what they're thinking about before they even go. And I combine that with the information I already have. Those are a couple of the steps that I take. When people get there, I'm also having conversations with them. I like to try to mingle and see where they're at and kind of catch their vibe. I know that people will be coming in frazzled. That's going to happen. Or they're thinking about so many other things that's on their plate. But I want to see like where they're at that moment, so I could capture them right where they're at. And it's like a conversation that's already had. And I want to continue that conversation, even before I start my speech. It's like a continued conversation. The start of my speech. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And oh man. But I love this stuff because it's what captures them. It's what engages them. But it helps me to get a sense of where they're at. And I could take them by the hand and carry them through the journey of a conversation. Because I don't want them bored. Like I don't want 1 second of boredom in the conversation. I'm saying conversation, but it's a speech. I don't want them bored. I want it to be like a movie. I want to take them on a journey. I'm getting fired up, Monty.
You are. Well, this is great because that segues into the whole point of the superpower of speaking. It's because you're trying to give a message.
Right.
And if you are only worried about projecting your message, then you are using old school advertising of blanket approach.
Yeah.
Which is where knowing your ideal client and knowing your target audience and knowing the people you are speaking to,
right.
That therefore you can know what mode is most receptive for them. So instead of just broadcasting out, you are sending signals. So the difference between a tower that just sends out radio waves everywhere, just anybody can receive these, and a dish that sends a beam of information directly to a specific recipient that's ready to receive.
Right. Wow.
So you can increase your message, amplify your message by tailoring it in a way that it becomes more receptive to the people that you want to impact the most. Since you can't impact everybody,
right?
I like to target my efforts along with targeting the people that those efforts are going to.
Right. I love that. That's deep, man. Yeah, it's so important because I know for me, I like to do research too. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about that. A lot of things are talked about, like the mechanics, but the emotional intelligence aspect of it and really vibing and feeling people out is so important. It's hard to do though.
Right. Well, and it's also misconceptions of, okay, well, market research. What is market research? Oh, well, I need to find out they're from these ages. They make this much money. They live in this kind of place. They like to go to the beach. They, those are all metadata of the person.
Right.
But there's context and perspective that all of that information is not relevant necessarily.
Right.
So but then there's the next level of metadata about them. That's that emotional intelligence. That's the physical aspects. That's the features.
Right.
Now we need to get in there and figure out, well, what are they thinking?
Yeah.
And then the next layer of that is, well, why are they thinking that? To a point. I mean, we're not wanting to get in there and psychoanalyze them and determine if they're sound of mind or not.
Right.
But there's certain things that if you know why they have their pain point, you can discuss it with them more deeply.
Right.
If you know what the pain is derived from, then again, you have another avenue to discuss the pain point with them. And there's the speaking part. A lot of times for me is saying the same thing a different way.
Yeah.
As many times as necessary.
Right.
For the person to receive the message.
Yeah.
So there's that. I could do it on the fly, or I could do some research ahead of time and refine that down and take less time. Which really, because every time you lose a little bit of impact. It's like having to explain a joke. If you have to explain a joke even a little bit, it loses funny. If you have to explain it a lot, it's not funny at all. So it's kind of like this, the impact. If you have to find too many ways, but I mean, of course, you want to continue until you can finally get your message across, but you don't want to do that every time.
Right.
Learn from that. Start narrowing that down.
Right. And and to pay attention to find out what works and what doesn't work. Absolutely. But and that's, even we talked about speaking, and finding out from the audience what they want. One of the things I love doing now too is, which I guess maybe I kind of get borderline workshop, like I end up turning it into a workshop, but I love asking questions in the moment, and it takes them along and it gets them engaged. Cause I think people are, and honestly too, Monty, coming from the time of the pandemic, even to now, and things have been at such a funny place. So, the average, or just the traditional people just sitting down and listening, it doesn't always fly. So I love asking questions and it gets them more engaged and involved, but I get more information from them, more data, and it helps to level up my emotional intelligence so I can understand where they're coming from. And if I need to keep going and add on to the notes I have, or kind of do a little detour or kind of do a parallel street or whatever when I'm conversating with them, I'm cool with that. But I love that. It just makes the conversation better, makes the speech better, in my opinion.
Yep. Engagement, interaction, and then pivoting accordingly, which is pretty much, a framework for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. But that's funny. It's interesting you said that too, because that's what I've been thinking a lot about recently as well. Like one of the things I even spoke to one of my students with movement is that I do relate, and people could tell from our conversations, I do relate even the arts, and I do relate public speaking, but there's so many nuances that are relatable to just life in general, but it's so easy to miss. But the more you understand it, that also helps out with your empathy. That also helps out with you understanding your audience more, because you understand how universal it is. It's interesting. I was reading this book, Innovations of Steve Jobs. I heard it from this guy, from Myron Golden, thought leader. His content is amazing. But that book, Innovations of Steve Jobs, it talks about that. It talks about that's a way of innovating. That's what he did. He related it not just to the industry he was in. He looked all around. He looked at different places and got information from those other areas as well. It just heightens your awareness.
Right. it can bring light to things you hadn't thought of thinking of.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff.
So the bandwidth part and the why is your person crying part and the whole understanding, how a person's going to receive information is essentially the core of the map, the ideal client map. The reason that I created it was to help our friend Steven get on track with what he was writing and with the way he was trying to get his message to his ideal client. And so it's interesting that we say you need to understand their pain. You talk about their pain. Why are they crying? All these things about pain. So that there's where we start. But to save bandwidth, we need the map. Now, we don't have time to go through the whole map. The whole map is expansive. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute my hand for the map, not the entire map, just the one section of map that we're focusing on. And we start out with the pain, and the pain is right here. And I'm not going to go 1, 2, and 3, because if I start here and go 1, that's not very polite. So we start here. So pain, read between the lines, pain. Okay, that's where we start. Now, I didn't choose that finger that way to be funny about it. It literally fits in the map right in the center. The pain's in the middle.
Right.
But we need to understand more than just the pain. You can define the pain. Well, they're feeling pain because they can't have what they want. Well, what is it that they want? We need to know the big thing. The big thing, the thumb, the biggest one. We need to know, what is it? What's the result that they want? They can't get it. That's why they're having pain. Well, why can't they get it? That's the problem. They're having a problem getting the thing they want, which causes the pain. So what we've done here is we're hopping in the train of thought. Come on a ride with me. We're gonna go on the train of thought on the thought track here. But this train's not constrained. We can go to any point on the track we want instantly. We don't have to travel through points to get there. So we're at the pain. We want to know about what they want. What's the result? They can't get it. That's the problem. All right. Well, all of this brings a question. The question has something to do with, how can I solve this problem? How can I relieve this pain so that I can get this thing? That's the question. But it doesn't matter. There's this little problem. There's this little thing. There's this objection. There's this misconception. There's something. It's not my fault. It's because of that thing over there. I can't get this because I believe that there's something restricting me that I can't overcome. It's so painful. I can't get it. This is what I want. How can I get it?
Right.
Now,
objection.
The fingers are helping here, but if we had a mind map, all of this starts to materialize in a way where now at a glance, I know exactly what it is. I know there's 5 different talking points about that, the pain being one of them.
Yeah.
So I can really get my message across. I can really ask the right questions to get more information. I can make the best decisions in my business so that I can deliver the best results, because that's the way I'm going to scale and get people to join, is by providing the big result. Right.
It's interesting you said that too, because I thought, first of all, I love your analogy of using your hand, because if there's a way, there's a time you can't use the map, you can use your hand. That's brilliant. And it's very clear. And I also liked, make sure I didn't lose my train of thought. This is really great, man. One thing I thought about as far as the audience's journey, I'm saying audience, sometimes we might say customer journey, client journey, your audience. That's where I'm at, because I'm thinking about the auditorium still. But you could take them on that journey. You give them that message, and you give them something powerful, but you also can give that value to, it's one word that came to mind that you said too, Monty, before was cry whine. When you said cry before, remember you said cry whine before, but something you could to satisfy and help that pain they have. You can help them out during that time, but also have them walk away with something, whether it's a course or a membership or something like that. But it's interesting how that's attached to your speech. And it's all connected. You could serve them in even a greater way with your empathy. So I thought about that when you were speaking.
Yep, and I was trying to get that across. So that's great that you detailed that out some more, because that's the point of knowing that track.
Yeah.
So that you can stay on track and stay focused. But the track is not necessarily just the pain point of a audience or of a ideal client or of a person.
Right.
The track applies to your own pains, your family members' pains. Just that it's human.
Yeah.
It's the thought process of a I don't like to say standard, typical, average, common. It's the common. It's the common. That's
everyday people.
It's just the most common.
Yeah.
Not that the people are common, just that it's the most average number.
Which is important that you mention that, because, not that the people are common, because each person's unique. However, we're so connected in that way. We're connected. That's what it is. Human to human contact.
The similarities.
Similarities. And that's how we're able to meet the need. And that's how empathy's connected.
Right.
It's
finding the similarities.
Yeah. It's not so much of the most sexy word or attractive word, right? But it's so key and so important. And I tell you what, there's a longevity when you could apply empathy, because, for while some people maybe they want to get that quick fix, that quick sale, or that quick whatever, that quick result, or, get that quick result from the person that they're serving that and talking about that. If you apply empathy, you will have that person with you for so long, or there's the potential to do that. I'm not in your shoes, audience, but there's a potential. I have some clients that, wow, some people come to me and say, I have some students that say, Carl, I started working with you 20 years ago. I'm like, what? 25 years ago. I have some people I work with whom my son interviewed them on his podcast, and they reminded me that the way we started working together was me working with that individual, serving them in some way. And that's the power of empathy. It lasts, it endures, while other tools that people can use can potentially be quick fixes.
I think empathy is the secret weapon for loyalty, for creating loyalty.
Yeah. I like that. That's solid.
Yeah. That was a good one off the top of my head.
Freestyle
on that one.
We're freestyling today, somewhat.
Sometimes the first one is the one that hits. Sometimes I have to fumble through words till I find the one I like, but
it's all good. Good process. It's a good process. That's what it is. So, but yeah, Monty, is there anything else?
That was I was thinking pretty incredible. We had no prep time. We had the least prep time out of any show that we've ever done, including our first one.
Woo!
But we're now, we have a system, we have a process. So now it wasn't a big deal to plug in the topic. We never got around to any of the other stuff that we would normally do.
Right.
We literally freestyled the whole show.
Freestyle.
But it was interesting how well it interconnected. Because I wanted to show you, because I've been practicing all weekend about that. because it was just so amazing. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's the big idea, and it's the little problem, and it's the pain.
Yeah.
Pain. So
Yeah.
I'm just fired up on that. It fits into the map. It fits my description. Now and like you said, it's like the mobile version.
The mobile, the mobile version.
Just be like, oh, what was it that I needed to talk about? What things do I want to talk about? Well, this is the person. Here's the pain. Here's what they want. Done. I talk all day long.
Oh, dude, that is a frank dude. Oh, I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you just for kicks. I'd love to see you work with that a little bit too. I mean, the map is amazing. I love the map, but just for kicks, for freestyle, for versatility, for whatever, I'd love to see you do that more. I enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that more. That's the on-screen thing,
Yeah.
The map is to sit down and let's really work on it. But if I want to describe it, if I want to go through it quickly, if I want to make a point, that's the perfect, the imperfect, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Well, it's interesting because as the presence king, and this is from my background as far as being an artist, sometimes you didn't have prep time, right? You trained and you got ready and you wanted to be prepared, but sometimes you had no prep time whatsoever, right? You had no props. You had nothing else with you, and all you had was to use this. So for me, that someone like me, that intrigues me because that shows me that's a great testament. And I'll share a story about something too that happened to me this last weekend. But sometimes we feel like we need all these bells and whistles, and it's not always the case. You work with what you have. And I do worship leading too. So I was doing that at my church last Sunday, and there was no audio on the stage.
Oh,
which means we couldn't hear each other. Right. And so, okay, it's like, what do you do? So what I had to do was I had to be more dynamic with my physical presence. So when you did that, that just reminded me of that. Here it is. Here's the prop. I'm the prop. I'm the projector. I'm the screen. I'm the slides. So anyway, I went off on a tangent. Couldn't help it. That's too good.
That's your, like you said, though, because from your perspective, from your context, you had this epiphany. So
yeah,
love sharing those.
Had to share it.
So I'm going to wrap that up with the keep it simple, because you highlighted the keep it simple part of, you don't need to have the fancy props and the fancy things, to have things on track.
Right.
You can just utilize something to remember, whether that's tying a string on your finger or a rhyme, a mnemonic. For me this time, and that wouldn't work for every time, but this time it mapped out. It's so great. Right.
And if I could add on to that, it does tie into your empathy, because you're in sync with yourself and you are present to be able to capture information from people so that you can best serve them. Empathy.
That's a nice summary.
You like that?
That was a good summary.
Well, it connected. I connected with you.
Absolutely. Yep. Right. Back to the front.
There it is.
Tie it through. That's
tie
what
it through.
Said. Tie it through.
So Monty, if people want to find out more about this whole thing you talked about with what's this? What is it? A Michael Jackson move? That's the ideal map, the ideal client map. If they want to find out more about it, where can they go?
They can go to montyarmstrong.com.
montyarmstrong.com.
Look at that. It's almost like you had it prepared.
Bam! Almost did it. I thought you were going to say the other one.
Oh, well.
It's all good. They both work.
that's because we didn't have any time to prepare before the show.
Freestyle.
It's all good.
Options.
So that's where you're going to find out more about the map and the mobile map. I'll have to add that in there. The mobile map. I like it. That's good. But then we're going to talk about the empathy and how it's your superpower for speaking. And you just summarized that and tied it back up. But if someone wants a little more guidance on that, on well, how do I do that exactly with my speaking, Mr. Presence King? Could you advise me a little bit on that? Instead of being the advisor to the king, could the king be my advisor? How do I do that?
Ooh, I like that. You can go to carlalleen.com. You'll find all things Carl, and I have some programs on there, and I would love to support you in your endeavors.
There we go.
Bam, there it is. And you've been watching another edition, a freestyle edition of Get Found
and Be Seen.
Talk to you soon. I did a quick peace sign.